All right, guys. Honestly, I don't really remember where we left off or what was the last update on this car. Things have been kind of crazy here at the shop, but the turbo S54 E30 M3 is now drivable. It's all fully assembled. We are actually going to be doing a little road tuning while we wait for our dyno day with Bo. The reason why we're going to do a little bit of road tuning is because my customer is like super eager to drive this car. I don't want to say impatient, but it's very close to it, and that's totally fine because it's been a while since he's had his car. Super excited to give it back, so I'll just give you a little bit of rundown. You guys saw the other S54 Turbo E30 we did. It's very similar setup with a few changes. So we have, this motor is fully built, pistons, rods, full valve train, everything you can think of. As far as the internals of the motor have been done. We didn't do cams on it. These are stock cams. New vinyls, upgraded vac hub, upgraded bolts, things like that. This is an aftercooler, air to water, it's like it is on the other car. But the differences between this car and that car is this has a built motor, this car's on a standalone. That other other car was stock motor, head gasket studs, and factory ECU. So there are some subtle differences. As far as the cooling system goes, it's pretty much all the same. This car got an air box, as you can see. Turbo sizing is slightly different. This one got a 3.5-inch downpipe, slightly bigger wastegate. Don't mind the melted freaking feed line there. Like it melted the sheeting off of it, but we have a replacement for that, and that was because I didn't have a blanket on it, and you know, things happen, but nothing to worry about. So I'm gonna just show you everything. Like I said, same cooling system, CSF modified radiator that we do with the beauty cover, which also works to insulate. 16-inch medium motor, spall fan. This car does have AC, as most of our swaps do. We're running a large motor, 14-inch fan in the front. The race E30 M3 oil cooler, a custom CSF heat exchanger. Besides that, ground control coilovers, they're all the basics. So let's go ahead and rack it up and I'll show you how it looks from the bottom. All right, so from down here, we're running an E34 oil pan. The dual sump pans are cool and all that stuff. I don't really see a huge point in running those unless you're gonna be like tracking the car or super worried about your ground clearance. This customer's been running this for years now, so you know, I have no fear of him breaking it. You know, he cares about the car, he's a good driver. You know, hasn't happened. If it does break, it breaks and we'll probably replace it. I doubt, you know, I don't need to be running no skid plate or anything because those things cause more damage than good in my opinion, in most cases. But you know, here we have the charge pipe on this particular car. Because it's an air to water, we don't really need, you know, to run anything fancy. Is just go straight to from the turbo to the aftercooler. Here you have your water pump for the aftercooler. It's gonna be a little hard to see, but I'll lift the skirt up a little bit or drop the skirt here. There's the heat exchanger. That's for the aftercooler. So it's basically a radiator for the aftercooler. And it'll be a little hard to see here, but this is where we mounted the oil cooler. So here's the heat exchanger, and right above is the oil cooler. Everything works, everything's getting good cooling. Like I said, this car is running a 3.5-inch downpipe, and I wanted to keep the exhaust as big as I could, so we went with 3.5-inch oval. Adam did most of the fab work on this car. He did a phenomenal job. Super happy how everything turned out. So 3.5-inch oval. We have a 3.5-inch cutoff valve here because who doesn't like, you know, the cool turbo sounds? And what's funny is the customer has not shut this valve off or I think the customer is not gonna shut that valve off probably for the first 3-4 months of driving this car. We have a vibrant, ultra quiet resin in the middle, and then we went with a Bordeaux Pro X, or I think this is the race muffler, with dual 3-inch tips out the back, but everything is 3.5 except for the tips. We just merged it here. Another cool thing we did on this car is, which is not uncommon, people do it all the time, but this car actually has a 210mm diff out of, you know, E28 M5, E32, whatever they freaking come off of. They come off on a lot of BMWs. This is the Euro E36 mount, the dual ear mount. The reason why I went with this setup is because I didn't have to reinvent the wheel for the Speedo to work, so it works. There's no issues. At the moment, we're currently running E34 axles with these adapters that they sell. I forgot who the brand was, but they make these adapters to run these. This is technically a stronger axle because you have, you know, the beefier bearings on both sides versus having the spline joint on one end. This car will be getting Drive Shaft Shop axles, which I'm currently working with them to just make me a set of these axles. Again, they're nothing special yet, but even when Drive Shaft Shop makes them, it's technically still a BMW configured axle. We made custom output flanges to accept the smaller axle here, because normally these are bigger and it uses the bigger case, but you know, we didn't really want to have an axle where it's big on one side, small on the other. If he ever breaks one, I feel it's gonna be a huge pain in the ass to find a replacement, versus this. He can come to me any day of the week. I'll throw an axle in and get him back on the road and tell him, don't beat the shit out of the car till you have your axles. We also did camber toe adjustment on this. And the main reason why is because, you know, most people want to add camber to their cars. We're trying to remove as much camber as possible, because at the end of everything, this customer wants 800 plus wheel, which is super overkill for this chassis, but that's what the customer wants. So I'm gonna try to give them as much traction as possible. We have my buddy Chris building us some custom LMs for it. We're gonna be running a 275 35 on there, which you guys will see in a later video. But for now, we're using these loaners. All right, so that's it for the subframe. You know, like I said, we're camber toe kit. As far as the fuel system, we upgraded to the late model tank, which has more fuel capacity. We modified this tank so it has I believe it's Aeromotive Eliminator style setup where it's dual pumps in its own housing. Modified the tank to accept that. We're running -8. From the tank to the hard lines, it's all AN Teflon, 40 micron fuel filter, custom stainless with Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. It has the flex fuel sensor, all that good stuff. The clutch, moving on from the fuel system, the clutch on this car is, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a Clutchmaster's like 850 twin disc. Don't quote me, but I think that's what it was. I can't remember at the moment. It is a 6-speed. We also did a heavier duty drive shaft, which is, it's actually thicker, and the tubing wall, the wall thickness is thicker, and it also has bigger U-joints. Most of the failures that I see in these drive shafts in these higher horsepower cars isn't even the joint so much, but it actually twists the tube, which is why we go to something a little thicker. This car is still in a 2-piece drive shaft, and the reason why I like the 2-piece drive shaft, because it eliminates certain vibration and just makes the car feel a little bit more streetable. So that's why we do that. But that pretty much sums up this car. You will hear it running shortly, driving, and you will also see it and hear it on the dyno. So I'm excited. We're very close to finishing this project, and I'm super excited. I'm sure the customer can't wait. We're here with the man Bo. This is the S54 Turbo E30 here doing a little bit of road testing because the customer wants to use the car, and there's been some delays on our end on getting this thing to the dyno. So, you know, obviously, you know, our customer's been waiting a while for this car, and you know, I can't complain or hate on them for wanting to drive this thing, but you know, it's going to be a couple weeks so we can actually get it on the dyno. So Bo was nice enough to come out and do a little bit of road testing, road tuning for us, so we can give him the car and he can at least go into boost. So we're probably at around 9 psi right now. You know, as you can see, Bo's just making sure everything's good. This car has a 3.5-inch downpipe, 3.5-inch full exhaust. It's oval in the middle, and we also put an exhaust cutout on it, you know, for shits and giggles. So we're gonna do a couple pulls with the valve closed, and then we'll do a couple pulls with the valve open. This is third gear. The hood pop up. Fortunately, BMW knew would be modifying the shit out of these cars, so they made the hood open the opposite way. I would think this is super trackable, and this is what I love to see. Look at that temperature, right? Look at all those pulls. Yeah, it's a fairly fresh day today, but all right, guys, it is dyno day today. We're out here at Road Race Engineering. This is where Bo typically tunes his cars, like rents a dyno and whatnot. So it is dyno day for the turbo S54 E30 M3. As you can see, we have some fuel because we're gonna be doing both 91 and E85 tunes on it. So Bo's gonna be on there. He's gonna dial in a little bit of the 91. We're probably not gonna exceed, if I was to guess, I'm gonna tell him to keep it under 15 pounds on 91, probably like 12 pounds on 91. The reason for that is it's very nerve-wracking running 91 fuels, especially here in LA, because the gas is pretty shitty in my opinion. So even though I know the motor can take it and whatnot, I don't want anything to go wrong while it's in the customer's hands. Plus, on 91, 12 to 15 PSI, this thing should be making, 550, 600 wheel, no problem. So, whatever it makes on that boost, I'm gonna be happy regardless. I already know when we swap it or turn it over to 85 is when we're really gonna give it to it. Our goal, or at least my goal for today, would be E85. I'm not sure how much boost, but I wanna have the car be making about 800 wheel. If it makes more than that, great. If it makes anything close to that, phenomenal. Obviously, like I said, it's gonna be tough for the car to have traction and be super usable at that power anyways, but it will once Bo and I figure out the traction control, boost by gear and all that, then it's really gonna open it up, but let's get to it. Car made about 545, which is honestly more than the car will need on 91 in my opinion, considering that he's going to be on the 85 most of the time. But moving on to the bigger power now. Unfortunately, we didn't make the power we were hoping due to some mechanical failures. The aftercooler water pump is like intermittently failing, so it'll turn on and off, causing our IATs to be super high. So we were only able to tune safely right now at about, I think we're about 16 PSI. On E85, we're making 665, 664 wheel. But our IATs are going a little too high where we feel it's unsafe to continue. So as of right now, we're gonna just stop here. Like I said, once we figure out the water pump issue for the aftercooler, we're gonna come back to the dyno and give it 20-25 pounds of boost, go from there. But as of right now, car still makes solid numbers. On 91, I believe it made about 553. That's only at about 11 PSI, 10 PSI. And then on the 85, on the same amount of boost, I think it picked up about 17 wheel. And then on full 85, with about 17, 16 pounds of boost, like I said, it makes 664, 665. So still very happy. Have zero issues with the car. Everything is great. Cooling system, everything regarding the car is good. So this will be to be continued. We're still gonna do some street driving, show you guys what it's about, but not gonna be breaking any 700 plus wheel horsepower numbers today. So until next time, we'll be continued on this E30 M3.